Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me? All right, perfect. So, I am Amanda DeVincenzo, and I will be discussing today the road to becoming a freelance virtual paralegal. Um, if you're interested in starting your own freelance career as a virtual paralegal, then you've come to the right place. Venturing out on your own does definitely sounds like a dream, but you can make it your reality, and people are doing it every day. So let me see what we can do to get started. So a little about me. Currently, I run my own legal consulting company, DeVincenzo Consulting. I provide virtual paralegal services to sole practitioners and boutique law firms across the U.S. I also offer professional mentoring and training for paralegals like yourselves, aspiring to pave their own way. Basically, for me, what got me in this profession was I was tired of working in a stuffy office, and I found myself completely unsatisfied with my work-life balance, and it was like pulling teeth to get a day off. I couldn't take an extended vacation. The 8 to 5 grind was just draining me, so I decided to go out on my own. I was afraid and nervous, but I think everyone is in that position when they take something and want to make it great and they're not sure how. So hopefully I can give you some tips throughout this presentation and get you guys on your own way. All right, so today we're going to go over the first steps that you can take to become a virtual paralegal, what a virtual paralegal is, what they do and don't do. We're going to discuss a little bit about education, skills, and know-how that will help you succeed in the field. We're also going to talk about finding clients and actually landing them, also setting and calculating your rates. And then I want to just briefly go over some pros and cons of having a virtual practice. And then at the end, I'll give you some helpful resources, and we can go over some questions. So the first steps are hard. It's trying. You have to be patient, and you really have to know what you want. Venturing out on your own is daunting, but it can also be liberating and a profitable venture. Where else can you conduct all your work from anywhere and sit in your PJs if you want? This is definitely the future generation of most fields, and law is no exception. I have to say, too, one of the things that I think is important to mention that it takes a certain personality, a certain level of drive and skill, and a great effort on your part to make your business successful. So don't stop in the beginning if you think that you're not doing well, because you can always get better. So the first step is educating yourself. Before you pursue this career, you need to know what a virtual paralegal is and what that job entails. So the American Bar Association defines a paralegal as a person qualified by education, training, or work experience who is employed or retained by a lawyer, law office, corporation, governmental agency, and other entity, and who performs specifically delegated substantive legal work for which a lawyer is responsible. Now, that is a whole mouthful. So basically, you guys are all probably doing that now or going to learn as newbies coming into the field. But a virtual paralegal is a little bit different. It meets the ABA definition and possesses the skills and expertise to perform this work, but in a virtual setting. So technically, you're a service provider and you're not an employee. You're a freelancer. You are your own boss, and you are responsible for setting up your own business, creating your own schedule, and hustling for your next paycheck. Services can be provided regularly, so you can work daily, weekly, monthly, however you want to set it up, or you can just work occasionally, find little projects here and there. As a freelancer, you have the freedom to decide how much you want to work and how busy you want to be, essentially. So, again, it's really up to you. So, virtual paralegals, sorry if I lose it a little bit, I'm kind of working on two screens here. Virtual paralegals are responsible for any number of tasks. It depends on the size of the law firm and the nature of the practice. But basically, I think in a nutshell, it's case planning, development, and management, legal research and fact gathering, drafting and analyzing legal documents, reviewing documents and forms, and recommending software applications for all the things that your attorney clients might need. You can either become a generalist or a specialist in certain practice areas, so you can work based off of your skills in any number of fields or practices. That's what I do. I work for immigration paralegals and contract paralegals and family law paralegals, attorneys, excuse me. But if you're a specialist, you can also focus on one particular type of law, so it depends on where you want to go in your journey. What virtual paralegals don't do, they don't provide legal services or advice directly to the public. They cannot represent a client in court or take depositions or sign pleadings. They cannot select, explain, draft, or recommend any legal document to any person other than the attorney that's supervising you. So that's an important one because a lot of people tend to forget that when they're finally out of school, you've been working for a few years, and all of a sudden the person on the street asks you if you can help them file and draft their paperwork. It seems easy enough, right? We all have the skills to do it. We're taught to do it. However, it is absolutely unequivocally against the law. So you don't want to be considered to be practicing the unauthorized practice of law, so just avoid that one completely. That seems to be a big one in the field these days. Paralegals also can't engage in, establish the attorney-client relationship or set the legal fees to be charged by the attorney. You can set your fees that you're charging to the attorney, but not what the attorney would charge to the client. So some of the rules and regulations I left here on the screen. So if you haven't had a chance to look at them, let me go over them real quick. So virtual paralegals aren't licensed. We're not regulated like attorneys. As far as I could tell, California is the only state with regulations and requirements. Being from California myself, I'm not really that surprised that they have those requirements. Let's see. Unethical conduct has direct impact on your supervising attorney. So that person is responsible for you, and you don't want to burn that bridge. So make sure that you're on the up and up all the time, and no one's watching you. So it's really up to you to have those ethics and integrity. And ethics are standards of right and wrong. They're not feelings or simply following the law or doing what society accepts. And virtual paralegals are required to follow ethical rules and codes of conduct. And you can find all those on the American Bar Association website, which I'll provide the link later on. So step one, again, was educate yourself. Know who you are, what your status is, what you can do, what you can't do, all that stuff. Again, all that information's on the American Bar Association website. So step two is do your research. You want to study the market for your services. You can determine who your competition is, what they're offering, and what it makes, what you're offering, how your offerings are different. So sometimes that can be, a little intimidating, sometimes not. It just depends. You can also check your government websites for small business startup help. Many local, state, and federal governments offer assistance to new businesses like loans, startup seminars, employment opportunities, etc. You can set Google alerts for virtual paralegal or freelance paralegal and start monitoring how the profession is developing. So I set alerts up. I probably get 1,000 a day, but it is good to be able to go through, and sometimes you get technical information, new software that comes out, emerging technology that is amazing to help the everyday tasks of running your business and helping out the attorney, excuse me. You can search for blogs written by other virtual paralegals. I'll be launching my blog here soon, so you can check back for that. But there are other blogs out there, maybe not so much by virtual paralegals, but other paralegals at least, and that'll offer a lot of valuable information for, at least how to operate in this business. But if you can find virtual paralegals out there, that'll help you figure out how to launch and operate a successful career. You can also join social media groups for freelance and virtual paralegals and build your social networking army. One of the ones that I'm sure everyone found out from today is Paralegals Connect, and that is a pretty cool group. I really enjoy being a part of it, and so you can check that out. Step 3 is defining your goals and developing your business plan. So before you start your freelance business, you need to get very clear on why you want to start this business. Once you have that bigger picture in mind, you can utilize your limited amount of time and greatly determine your level of success. It's important to set these meaningful goals that will move you forward. So you want to make sure they're clearly defined and easily measurable. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in the shuffle. You can start by asking yourself a few questions. So is this the right path for you? Do you want to make it a side job? Do you want to quit your full-time job and move fully to this business? Can you afford to take the leap? Or are you just looking to use it as a stepping stone to achieve a different goal entirely? As long as you start to figure that out, I think you'll start to shape what kind of services you want to provide and what kind of business, in essence, you're going to provide. So you want to determine the type of business that you want to set up. You can be a sole proprietor. That is one person that owns a business, and generally it's cheaper. The tax burden is on you completely as the individual. Or you could have a partnership where it's two of you and the burden is on both of you. You have also a limited liability company. Again, that burden is shifted to the business. And then there are also corporations. I think to start, most people will probably just be a sole proprietor. At this point, that's what I am. I think most of the virtual paralegals that I know are. It's easier, it's cheaper, you want to keep your costs low, so that's generally the way to go. Once you know all that, you can start your business plan. You can get all of the things out of the way, what your mission is, what your goals are, who you want your clients to be, how you're going to market your services, what kind of market analysis is out there for you to even know where to market your services. So all of that is incredibly important to at least get you started on the first step. And then every once in a while, expand and redefine your goals. It's it's ever changing. I think I change my mind probably every few months of what kind of law I want to practice or or work in, and I moved to a different arena, and I work with new attorneys. So I think that you're always striving for something more, hopefully, and that will hopefully give you more success in your career and satisfaction personally too. So step 4 is be patient and prepare financially. So you need to prepare yourself for taking the leap because it is a big leap. You want to be patient. You probably won't score a lot of business in the beginning, but it can be a challenge, but it can also be fun. Be sure you set aside savings or make sure you have another source of income for, I'd say, at least 6 months to a year because, like I said, in the first year or so, you're struggling to run the business, find clients, and then actually do the paralegal work. So it's a lot on your plate, and you need time to grow, you need time to learn. So make sure that you're prepared financially and emotionally and personally as well. And step 5 is keeping your business costs low, your marketing, your overhead. You can do your own marketing for little or no cost. Social media is great these days. I think there are companies like Vistaprint that still offer free business cards, and maybe some companies might give you free software if you do a trial, or if you're saying that you're checking it out for your attorney client, then maybe they'll give you a free trial. I've had that happen before. So, no question can go unanswered, and I think that you should always keep asking for stuff. So if you need new software, contact that company. The worst they could say is no. Also, utilize your free resources. Local libraries are great. The internet and Google is your best friend, and there are great legal professional networks out there. So check those out. I'll provide links at the end for you guys. Next, you can create marketing lists from the state bar associations, and that is a task and a half. It takes a lot of work and Excel spreadsheets and all that stuff, but once you get those lists, you can set up your emails and newsletters and things like that to be able to be done automatically. So all you do is put the list in and everything gets sent. So things are starting to get a little bit easier than they were when I started working 20 plus years ago. And then I think you should also do marketing every 3 months in the beginning. It keeps you fresh. It keeps people remembering your name, keeps your clients wanting to maybe take, they might forget that they had you on the side there working remotely. And so if you keep in contact with them, they'll likely give you more business. All right. Are there any questions about anything so far? Are we good to keep moving on? All right, I guess so. Thanks, Lauren. So next is paralegal education and training. So a virtual paralegal is no different from a traditional paralegal. The education's still going to be the same. The degrees are still going to be the same. The training, the skills, for the most part. There are specialized skills for virtual paralegals, which I'll discuss. But just as a general rule, there's no extra credentialing at this time. There are over 1,000 institutions across the country with paralegal programs. So if you want to join one or you don't like maybe the one you're in, actually all paralegal programs I've read are pretty great. So I think you'll probably find a good one no matter where you are. Community colleges and four-year universities and other business schools also offer paralegal training and education, so you can check those out. I'm sure in your local areas you have a ton of resources. And if not, there's, again, always the internet. You can always Google search paralegal programs, formal paralegal programs, ABA programs. So it shouldn't be that difficult to find something if you're looking for one. I imagine most of you are probably in one or have been in one before. So, but they offer paralegal degrees as an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, as a certificate. Some programs are masters. I don't know personally if that helps in business or increasing and maximizing, what you can charge. But I guess if you're craving the education, then I would go for it. There are also internships and externships and practicums, which are awesome. They give you hands-on experience while you're in school. Some are paid, some are not paid. But it gives you a chance to get your feet a little wet and put something on your resume. So if you're in school, definitely try to get an internship or one of those, because the minute you get out of school, everyone's going to say, we need you to have experience. And then you say, I don't have experience, I need to get experience to have it. So we've all been through that revolving door, and so don't worry about it, but if you can, definitely check out those internships. And I would suggest those for people, say, who aren't even in a program. There are lots of places that might offer internships. District attorney's offices, courts might have internships for just working professionals if you're just interested.
I know I said that hold your questions to the end, but we have a few.
Okay.
So are you getting names? I'm going to massacre a name. I don't even want to say it. So are you getting your names from names, firms, and emails, soliciting through email from the marketing list?
Yes.
Okay. And then Glenn asked, thank you, Shintra. Oh, sorry about that. Where did you get your credentials? Glenn is asking.
As far as myself, I went to Southwestern College in San Diego over 10 years ago. They were not at the time, and I still believe they're not ABA approved. However, they were an excellent program. I would never knock anyone's program, because I think you can learn valuable information if you're looking for it and you want to learn it. But it didn't hurt me in my search, so I guess it didn't really matter at the end of the day. But I ended up wanting to go to law school, and then realized through my experience as a paralegal that I enjoyed being a paralegal much more. There's a lot more freedom in it. Attorneys are bound by lots of rules and regulations, and they can generally only work in one state or have to get licensed in another state. So we can work anywhere we want. So I decided to do a master's program instead, because I craved the education and I craved a little more boost in my career. So I did that at Northwestern University, and I got a master's in public policy and administration.
Okay, and Felicia asked, how many years do you think should be ideal to wait before venturing to freelance?
That's a great question. I would say it depends on how comfortable you are, because having your own virtual business is a task in itself. So if you're comfortable with that and you're comfortable in your skills, then you can try to go out as much as possible. However, that doesn't mean you're going to get hired. So to answer your question, I guess, better, I would probably recommend 3 to 5 years, more on the 5-year end. I think that there are exceptional people who may not need all the years of experience, and then there are people that would. So it really depends on what your skills are and what your market's like. So currently I live in Central Oregon, and we're saturated with paralegals, but there isn't, there's not a lot of space. So it just depends really on where you're looking and who you're targeting. I hope that answered that.
Okay, and we're going to go ahead. I know there's more questions, but I want you to go ahead with your material. Okay? And I'll keep track of the questions for you.
No problem. Thank you. So, on that note, paralegal certification. The American Bar Association approves the programs, but they don't certify paralegals. So, you need to go to an independent paralegal organization, which is, the National Association of Legal Assistants, NALA, or the National Federation of Paralegal Associations. All of those offer different certifications that you take an exam for, and you fill out some paperwork, you pass your exam, pay some money, and boom, you have a certification. Now, on that, I want to do a little note. I think today, in today's market, it is a great idea to have as many credentials as you can. If you're starting out now. So if you're a new paralegal or you've only been in the field for a few years, I would take the effort and the money to go and do all those things, because your competition is only getting stiffer. Now, for people like myself or who have been in the business for a long time, I've never had a problem with not having the little letters after my name. No one has ever asked me about it. I've never lost a potential client because of it. So I think for some experienced paralegals or people who have been in the field for a long time, I don't know that it's all that necessary if you already have a good base and a good portfolio. And then, of course, there is continuing legal education. So you can go to conferences, seminars, webinars, kind of like what we're doing today. You can complete an education program like the one offered at the Center for Advanced Legal Studies. You can provide instruction. You can offer your own teaching, like a session, or go to, say, a state bar event, and you want to talk about being a virtual paralegal, for example. That's something that's possible. So depending on what it is, you will have opportunities to get those CLEs in. So many legal professionals, know about these CLEs, but they're not really necessarily mandatory. So it depends on the state that you're living in. So I'm assuming most of you are probably from Texas. That is actually a place where you are, there is regulation. So active and associate members of the paralegal division at the State Bar of Texas, you guys are required to have 6 hours of CLE per year, which includes at least 1 hour in legal ethics. So, that's pretty amazing for all the people that are, your cohorts in the field, that all of you are getting emerging technology knowledge and new information that's coming into the field. You're constantly brushing up on your skills, so that's really great. So generally, the type of paralegal services that you offer are going to play a huge part in determining what skills you need and what you need to know. Overall, the same traits for being a great paralegal in the traditional setting are the same for being a great virtual paralegal. You need excellent judgment, critical thinking, analytical ability, problem-solving skills. A virtual practice tends to have some advanced tools and tactics that go beyond the usual paralegal skills. You have less face time and very little overall supervision, so working remotely has its own unique challenges, and you're really going to need to be self-motivated and professionally driven. Not everyone needs their hand held, but it is even harder when you're working remotely. You don't always get to communicate. Sometimes You have a question and there's a deadline and no one has responded. How do you deal with it? In an office, you'd walk right into their office and ask them. You can't do that when they're across the country, say 3 hours ahead. So you really, really have to take note of the different challenges. So to compete for your clients, you're going to have specialized skills and know-how. So that includes virtual skills. Before considering it, you should determine what your ultimate comfort level is with technology. Do you have a basic computer and word processing skills? Are you adaptable to new technologies? Do you have experience in that? Are you interested in using it? If you're a person who doesn't like to sit on the computer for long periods of time, probably not the profession for you. Technology has created an excellent forum for enterprising paralegals to develop their virtual skills. So you can check out the ABA for like technical overviews and charts, and they have some information about different virtual skills that you may need. The next one is commitment. You have to be able to follow through with what you tell your client you're going to do. If you say you're going to meet a deadline, meet a deadline. Don't put it off. Don't pass it off. Don't try to push it back. You really have to be committed to give your all during your job. No one's going to walk in your office and fire you necessarily, but if you lose that client, you lose out on a steady stream of income. So you have to really be diligent and keep that in mind. Another one is taking the initiative. To work from home, you have to have initiative to get up and get to work every day. It's easy when you have an alarm going off and you have bosses and coworkers and everyone relying on you, but when you want to sleep in or you want to put it off for a couple days, you do have that flexibility, but at the same time, you need to make sure that you take the initiative and get your work done. Sometimes I think knowing that you have someone looking over your shoulder makes you a little bit more lackadaisical, so that tends to show in your work. The next one is organizational skills. It's important to be organized. Otherwise, your office isn't going to run as smoothly. If you're scrambling to find paper or you miss a deadline because you're distracted, then you know you need to get more organized. Luckily, being on a computer, it makes it a little bit easier than having 1,000 client files in your drawer and papers and pads of paper everywhere. I'm still a little old school myself, so I do write most of my notes on paper and then scan them in. But if you're just completely working on a computer, there's a lot of software out there that can help you with organization. The next one is time management. When you're working with multiple clients or projects, you may find yourself overwhelmed with competing deadlines, so it's important to multitask and manage your time effectively. Sometimes you can procrastinate again if you have that in you. I'm a little bit of a procrastinator myself, but I also work well under pressure. So if you want to be in this field, you definitely have to work under pressure as well. The next one is communication skills, both oral and written. Since you're not face-to-face with your client, you need to have good communication skills. And the ability to spend long periods of time alone. So you're not going into an office every day. You're isolated from your coworkers, your clients. There's no chit-chat around you. It can be incredibly soothing to not have a lot of noise every day, but at the same time, it can be incredibly boring and it can kind of wear on you a little bit. So just keep that in mind as you're going through whether you really enjoy not venturing out into the world every day. Not to say that you can't. You can always, as a virtual paralegal, work on the beach every day if you wanted to. And then I think at the end of the day, you have to have a general interest or genuine interest in the law and empathy for your clients. You have to know what they want and what you can give them and perform. So the next one is, this is missing some skills, it looks like. So gaining clients. This is a big one. It's incredibly important to compete on value, not price. That means that everything you do in regard to your freelance business needs to point back to your ability to deliver the highest quality results for your clients. So to identify your target clients, I think in the beginning it's fine to take a more lax approach to landing those clients. So you can make some initial assumptions about who you want to work with and target them, and then once you do work with a few, I think you'll develop a better sense of whether or not you want to continue working with those kinds of clients. So sometimes people don't want to deal with stronger personalities, so you would avoid those types of clients. Some attorneys aren't communicative at all. If you need someone to constantly communicate with you, then don't work with those types of clients. So it's really important to think about those things. And then I think you can really start with those questions. Which business will find your services useful? Which businesses can afford you? And figure out who the decision makers are and contact them. Again, the worst they could say is, no, they don't need your services right now. But at least you have them, their contact information written down. You've reached out. Say they decide one day they want one and they remember your name. It's that easy. So next, targeting them. Who's hiring virtual paralegals in the first place? I would say it's mostly solo attorneys and small law firms. Bigger firms have the money and the equipment and the office space to hire paralegals, so it generally tends to be one or two paralegals make an office, and they need you for everything. They could be client contact, it could be drafting documents, anything that you could think of. So you really will have to wear many hats in this business, but you'll also be able to work with fewer attorneys. So if that's your goal, then it's a good step. They also have some legal positions in non-traditional environments. So corporate legal departments, insurance companies, estate and trust departments, hospitals, real estate, everything on that list. You can search it on job boards and all, wherever you can imagine you can find clients. And just try it, test it out. Send out a pitch to them and see if something comes back. You never know. So where do you look for job openings? Oh, I see Claudia asked a question. Oh, I missed it. Sorry, it went away. I'll come back around. You can look at your local, state, national paralegal associations. The bar associations are great resources. There are tons if you just want to search virtual paralegal positions, you'll find a lot of different companies come up looking for virtual paralegals. So it's a matter of doing a search. Again, do your research. Also, employment agencies and websites that list jobs. Be careful, some may charge a fee. LinkedIn Jobs is one. Upwork, Freelancer, Indeed, and Fiverr. Fiverr, I'm not so sure about exactly. I put that on there because I've seen a few people get some business from that, but the pay isn't going to be very good. It's going to be small projects, maybe a few hours or so here and there, and you're not really going to get the pay that you want. So if you're looking for a steady stream, that's probably not the way to go. Upwork, I think that Some people say yes, some people say no. I personally started posting stuff on Upwork when I started my business. I immediately got a client and had him for the next year and a half. So I think it can be really good. The problem with it is you have to really pay attention to what you're looking for, and what they're wanting. So I would just keep in mind that when you're looking for those jobs, you're competing against people who say are in other countries and are trying to offer their services. And they're offering, $5 an hour, which is I've seen, and you're trying to make $50 an hour. You're not going to get anywhere. So if you find yourself stuck a little bit on Upwork, that's probably why. So I would pay attention to the more lucrative jobs, the ones that list what they're paying. I tend to skip right by the ones that don't even have what their budget is. That means that they didn't care enough to put it on there. I don't care enough to write my proposal. So I think it just depends on what you're looking for. And as far as those fees, I think it started off at 10%. So I'm not sure what it starts off at now, but to me, at the end of the day, they're really just providing the platform. So they kind of deserve the 10% because it makes it easier for me to have to go out and market myself on social media, build a web page, and all that stuff. So it's worked for the last couple of years for me. LinkedIn's another great one. I've had several clients find me on LinkedIn. So I think if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, get one and put your best stuff up there and cross your fingers that people are looking for you. If not, they have job boards, and they also have job boards in newspapers and industry publications. Social media groups, again, are good. I've seen several job postings on the paralegal group, so just keep your eyes out. Any questions? All right. So I think, finally, put your best foot forward. Spruce up your resume, update your social media and professional networks, create a website for your business, build a high-quality portfolio, and have great examples of what you can deliver, and then perfect your pitch to potential clients. Write, edit, revise, write, edit, revise. So just keep going until you get the perfect pitch. And you'll know because you'll start bringing in a bunch of clients. Some popular areas of practice that I think are really emerging right now because of technology is technology and e-discovery. That is a huge one. Litigation, immigration, family law, healthcare is another big one, and bankruptcy. There are a few people I know that do bankruptcy, and you can take on a whole case and get it done in less time than if you were working, for an hourly wage daily. So determining your value. Virtual paralegals, the rates vary by firm size. So if it's a larger firm, they're going to pay more. A smaller firm might not pay as much. The nature of the legal practice, if it's highly specialized, you're going to make more money. Education and work experience. So if you have lots of it, that tends to get you more. And the level of specialization required. Remember, you got to price yourself on the value that you're delivering, not what your competitors are charging. So just because you hear someone is charging $25 for an hour for their services, if you feel you're worth more, I would pitch and go for more. At some point, someone is going to need your services, and they're going to give you what you deserve. So that is, if nothing else, the shining light in the sky. And to calculate your rates, this is kind of an interesting one. I was doing a little bit of research on this because I didn't even do this myself, to be honest. I kind of just took a number out of the air when I started and then worked from there. So typical rates that I've found for virtual paralegals, experience, specialized skills, $50 an hour. I mean, you can make upwards of a third of what the attorney is charging. Newer entry-level paralegals are going to make maybe somewhere between 25 and 35 if you're shooting for that. You might make a little less depending on your area, or if you're, say, working with an attorney in San Francisco, even if you're entry level, you could charge more because they're going to pay more anyway if they hired somebody. So your rate probably is still going to be less than that. There's wiggle room. Don't confuse it with hourly employee rates because you are an independent business owner. So you have your own computers and software. You don't get overtime or sick pay. It can be kind of challenging, but to calculate it, there's this formula. So you divide your overall cost of running your business by the number of billable hours. I provided a link for the online calculator, and I'll keep that link available for you guys so that you can check it out, or you could just do a quick Google search. And then you have to consider the cost of doing business when you're calculating the rates. So how much is office equipment? How much is web hosting? How much does it cost for all your software that you're going to need to, bill clients, track time, send out invoices, do your taxes, things like that. And then, is it free to market? If it's going to cost money, then you have to put that all in your bottom line. And remember, as an independent contractor, you're going to have extra expenses like healthcare costs and self-employment tax. That's just the nature of the business. And then fee structures. There are a few, I think. These are the main ones. The biggest one is hourly. I think most virtual paralegals I know still get paid hourly rates. That's the best one if you're kind of just working for an attorney as if you were in a traditional office, you're the paralegal to one attorney. That would be better under an hourly rate. Flat fee would be better if you're project-based and you know how much work and time it's going to take to get something done. Retainers aren't very common. I also freelance in content development outside of the legal business, and I use retainers for clients that are paying me to create web content or things like that. And if I do it on a regular basis, because then I know I have a steady stream of income. And they know that I'm going to be available because I've already dedicated that time. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can check it out. But I would say stick with hourly or flat fee. And then you want to make sure you have a fee agreement. Always get it in writing. Keep it in writing on what their expectations are and what yours are, what the responsibilities are, and definitely what the payment terms are. And the pros and cons. So quickly, the pros are you get control of your life. You get to work from anywhere. You can work from home. You can work from anywhere, basically, with an internet connection. You're not stuck to that stuffy little cubicle anymore. You can set your own schedule. You get to decide how much you want to work, when you want to work. You get to work with multiple clients, hopefully, if you choose to do so. And then you get a freedom of being creative. You get to have your own voice. You get to do what you want in the field. You get to practice the areas that are meaningful to you. And you get to kind of explore some of your passions. There are some cons to working virtually. There is great pressure running your own business. Like I mentioned before, there's no training generally or very little supervision. You have to hustle on your own to get and keep your clients. Marketing is going to be big, so you're constantly always looking for new clients unless you have been lucky to have long-term clients. You also have to worry about unstable income because things can happen. Say the attorney doesn't have work for you that week, and that can throw off your entire budget for the month. So you have to make sure, again, you're being prepared financially. And then the evolution of technology kind of throws a wrench in there. It changes all the time. New programs and software come out, and all of a sudden everything changes and the attorney wants to do something different. So you have to keep updated on all that information. And then these are the resources. I provided links. I don't know if you guys can see them or copy them from there, so I'll make sure that I get the information out to you this week. And that's basically all I have, so if you guys have any questions, I am open.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I will be reading some questions that we've had during the session, so I will be facilitating that. First question from Crystal was, is it possible to work for the state in the government sector full-time and be able to work part-time as a virtual paralegal without there being any conflict of interest?
Yes, I think it's very possible. It's possible to do. Unless you're finding clients that the government agency is working with, which if you're working at a court, say, and then you find a client that comes into court every day, that would be a conflict of interest. But generally, I don't know that you would find many conflicts in that situation, because most of the time your clients are going to be different than government clients.
Okay, great. Charity asks, how would you market yourself to firms or private attorneys?
I think the biggest one is building your portfolio and your social media. So get a business web page. You can even do that on Facebook, and it's free. Building your portfolio is important because that'll show examples of your work. So all the papers and projects you're doing in school can go in there until you get new stuff. You want to keep things confidential, so if you're using actual cases you've worked on, make sure you redact things or take out specific names and personal information. But otherwise, I think having examples of your work is probably one of the bigger ones, because then people can see what your style is. People can see how much attention you pay to detail, and whether you have great writing skills. And just having a degree doesn't necessarily give you the skills that are necessary. So it's important to showcase your work.
Okay. The next question is, can you describe your first experience as a paralegal? The commencement speaker that we recently had at CALS mentioned that there were very few certified paralegals in Texas.
I missed that. I'm sorry.
I said, can you describe your first experience as a paralegal? The guest speaker at commencement we just had mentioned that there are very few certified paralegals in Texas.
Okay, I got what you're saying. The guest speaker was that. Okay. My first experience as a paralegal, I worked in offices. Right out of a paralegal program, I got my first job. Remember, I did internships, so I had experience a little bit, and I had a bachelor's degree at that point as well. But when I got my first job, I walked in there. It was post-judgment collections for a collection law firm, and I had no idea what I was doing, nor did the attorney. So I had to, from day one, figure it all out on my own. I ended up developing manuals and all sorts of things later on down the road, because nobody should walk into a job and not know what they're doing. But it was a great experience. And then I think as a virtual paralegal, I've had just random, I think my first few jobs were little projects here and there, maybe editing a contract or drafting pleadings or something like that. And as far as certified paralegals,
that was
like I said before,
board certified, Texas board certified paralegals. There aren't many in the state of Texas, actually.
Yeah, I don't know much about Texas. I'm not sure about their certifications, so I don't know much about that. But I think in general, I want to say there was like 14,000 or so when I did some research this past week on just certified paralegals in general. So that's a very small number. And like I mentioned before, you don't necessarily need those unless you find that all the attorneys or firms that you're looking at need that or require that. But if you're finding jobs that don't require it, I wouldn't necessarily go for it.
Okay, Claudia asked, how would a virtual paralegal benefit a professional trade association?
Um, I'm not really sure how to answer that because I'm not really familiar with professional trade associations. So maybe if that person can send me the question, I can get back to them and do a little research and answer it.
Okay. And the next question is, um, market how specifically, aside from social media? What do you need to, yeah. So how would you market aside from social media?
I think these days that is one of the bigger ones. There are still old school publications that you could put your information in. I mean, they still have phone books these days if you wanted to call the yellow pages and get your name in there. Um, there are uh, job boards and things that you can post at your state bar or other paralegal associations across the country or in your state. So really, marketing is endless at this point. With the way that the internet is, everything is at your fingertips. So you can really find as much information as long as you go and search for it. Sometimes there's a rabbit hole, but I think marketing yourself at this point, like I said, LinkedIn is another good one. I know you said no social media, but though that's a professional network where people are specifically looking for certain things, and like I said, I've had clients find me on there. So I would start there and then expand out as if you're not finding any success.
Okay, and the next question we had, I'm not sure who it was from, but what do you do if you need to e-file and the website is down? For example, filing applications with the U.S. Patent, Patent and Trademark Office, or you just screwed?
Yeah, no, you're just screwed. Excuse me for saying that, but if the site is down and it's someone else's site, at the end of the day, that's not your problem. I understand that there are deadlines, but if a site is down, a site is down. Unless, you know, you're like a little hacker that could get in there and put your information, but that's unlikely and that would be unethical. So really, you would just have to wait for it to come back up or not wait till the last minute, maybe. I'm not sure.
That's when, planning your time comes in the role, I believe, right?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said that's when planning your time is important, right?
Yes. Explaining your
Okay,
time.
planning your time management.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Time management is incredibly important. Um, if if you keep your client list low, you only work for a couple of attorneys. It doesn't necessarily have to get that hectic. But if you're choosing to work with a lot of different attorneys or attorneys that have a lot of different projects, then you really need to be on top of your game to get those things done and figure out, do I want to work for 6 days today, or do I want to spread it out, or do I want to work for 10? So it's really up to you. Again, you set your hours, you set your schedule, you're in control of all of that. So if you don't want to work a full 40-hour week, don't find clients or don't pitch to clients that want a 40-hour work week from you.
Okay, the next question comes from Carrie. What if I'm not interested in starting a business, but I want only to do freelance work?
Well, technically, if you're doing freelance work, in a sense, you do have your own business. You're not necessarily going out and starting an LLC, but again, you are a sole proprietor. Your taxes will be different if you're not getting a W-2, you're getting a 1099. So you don't necessarily have to set up a platform when I say make a business web page. That could be your web page with your name and your information, and that's it. I mean, and obviously your portfolio and such, but it doesn't have to be an official business that you're starting. Even if you're just freelancing on the side, your tax burden is different when you're a 1099 contractor. So you have to really keep that in mind. And I would definitely check out the IRS for more information about being a 1099 contractor.
Carol also, thank you. Carol also asked, is it possible to do the bankruptcies by getting info scanned to you, or do you have to stay in your own state?
That is a good question. As far as I know, there are no parameters on paralegals on where you can work. So my attorneys are actually all on the East Coast, and again, I'm in Oregon. So I think that you're not necessarily bound to the particular state. If you're marketing to a bankruptcy attorney, then he or she is supervising you, and you can work with them, even across state lines. I would check, double check if you're going into that, but I don't, as far as I know, there aren't any requirements.
Okay, the next question is from Shintra. I apologize for saying your name wrong. I know I'm saying it wrong. How often do you invoice? Also, what are the terms for payment?
I invoice, I try to do it every 2 weeks, but sometimes I get too busy and I just wait till the end of the month. So generally, yeah, like it's at least once a month. I don't really like invoicing, and I don't like having to bill. It is an arduous task that just drives me crazy, but it's necessary. If I want to get paid, then I have to do the work. And I'm sorry, what was the second part?
Also, what are the terms or for the payment?
The terms for me, I get paid hourly or by flat fee.
When she's
it just depends on the client.
Like how much? Like when do you give them time to pay? Like net 30, 10 days? I mean,
I see what you're saying.
What are the terms?
I give 10 days generally. It depends on the contract. So when you're landing your clients and you do your fee agreements and your contractor agreement, then you'll lay all that out. And some attorneys might have that information in their own agreements, but I make a habit of doing 10 days because if for some reason they don't pay me within 10 days, I don't want it to go more than 30 to collect. So at that point now they're coming into my personal income. And so I think that 10 days is fairly good. But the clients I have now usually pay me immediately once they get my invoice. Everything is done wire, like they wire it right to the bank and stuff. So it's pretty easy these days.
Okay, we had a few questions and comments. Will you be sending us the PowerPoint? Amanda will post it on her website. There's no CLE for this. It's just outreach seminar to the legal community. So another question is, where can we find assistance in developing a business plan? They got lots of resources on the internet for that. And and that really is a good question because since I am a business teacher, I can probably put on a presentation for that in the near future if that is if that's a need. So I can definitely help with that, and get someone to co-team it with me in the paralegal field. Felicia asked a question: if you are looking to be a virtual paralegal in bankruptcy, is it ideal to get a couple of case filing software systems such as BK Pro and Best Case?
Yes.
Okay. And
if any field that any practice area that you're working in, if there is specialized technology or software out there that you need to do your job, then you'll need to provide it for yourself unless the attorneys provide it. Remember, you're working under a supervising attorney. So sometimes those law offices will already have all that set up, and they might just, give you an email or give you a login. But if not, you will have to provide those things so that you can get the job done.
Okay, a guest has commented, as a successful virtual freelance paralegal here in Texas, you were spot on with the information. Facebook is also a great place to find clients. Very useful and time well spent from Glenn. Good information.
Thanks, guys.
Hold on, I lost my place. I'm sorry. Kirk wants to know, can administrative tasks be solicited specifically on a freelance basis, such as editing and proofreading contracts?
Absolutely. And if you're doing administrative tasks, you don't have to market yourself as a paralegal. So you can technically do those for other companies outside of the legal business, as long as you're not working on legal documents or any kind of substantive legal work. But I think that is a great idea. I do that myself because it gives me extra income, and I actually really enjoy proofreading and editing and stuff like that. So it kind of lets me have a little bit of creative side at the end of the day. But yeah, absolutely. If you have excellent proofreading skills or writing skills, or legal citations and things like that, those are little, very specialized skills that if you have them, market them to as many people as you can.
Okay, Carol, your question regarding you've been searching for entry-level remote and virtual paralegal jobs for a while, and you've not found many. Give us, and you are a Cal student, give me a call, okay? Or send me an email, okay? And we can probably talk about that. Do they still have the certified paralegal test? We're working on that because they changed it up, and we are working to offer that as well. Glenn had a suggestion: visit courthouse with business cards in hand. Excellent idea. A guest also said that they contact attorneys directly. I'm
sorry, I missed that.
I'm trying to read through all these. With BK, you need to make sure you know the exemptions for each state you're working on. Contributed by Felicia. QuickBooks Online, if you have an app, that is very helpful with freelance and counts your mileage while you are driving and helps you stay organized for tax time. And has a self-employment freelance option. Another comment was made. Thank you. Great presentation. One thing to keep in mind is that this fastest growing profession and unemployment rate is low. That is correct. Thank you for your time. Great info. Thank you, Amanda. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you. Great. Thanks for that response, as Kirk. Do you do legal consulting for businesses, or are you referring to consulting for those wanting to start a virtual paralegal business? So I think some of these are they came in late. So can you go ahead and touch on your first slide, if you don't mind?
Yeah, let me
about services that you do offer.
Let me go back. So I do. I market to attorneys if they need help with training. But I also, for paralegals that are looking to move into this arena, I offer one-on-one coaching. I can do group coaching. We're looking to launch a new program here pretty soon. We could do training. Say you have a focus. Say you need information on you just need to perfect your word skills, or you want to know how to send out emails. That's something that you can always email me and ask me questions. But if you do want to have someone to help guide you along or give you very pointed information, I am available for that as well.
Okay, well, my mic is off. Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, I believe that's all we have. Carol also added Bankruptcy Pro has all the codes updated for each state. Okay, and we went over to 7:15. I think it was an excellent session. Thank you so much for your time, Amanda.
Oh, thank
Oops.
you. Thanks, guys, so much. I appreciate it.
And
And
we're going to go ahead.
good luck in your journeys.
And again, Amanda will be posting this on her website. And if you're a Cal student, we do have recordings accessible to you. So, and if you need those recordings, contact me and I will send you the link. Thank you so much for joining us.